Okay then, hello everyone. Welcome to London DevOps. Thank you for coming. Happy New Year. So those of you who remember those holidays. So this is London DevOps meetup number 65. Another virtual one. Maybe it will be the last virtual one we do. I hope so. You know, I don't mind these four walls in here, but you know, I'd much rather be out and about down in London in a nice venue. Doing meetup stuff. So maybe this will be the last virtual one, we shall see. One of the fringe benefits of having a virtual meetup is that we get to have participants from all across the world contributing to London DevOps, and tonight is no exception, of which more later. So, London DevOps. So we're about DevOps. Surely everyone here has heard 17,000 different definitions of DevOps. Here's one that probably my favorite one from Ken at ThoughtWorks, just to explain what we're doing here, why we're all here tonight, when we could be out in I was going to say out and about in the cold, in the wind. But, I think being here in London DevOps is probably a much better choice than that. There's another definition of DevOps from John Vincent, giving a bleep about your job enough to not pass the buck, and giving a bleep about your job enough to want to learn all the arts. So not just that little bit that you're doing, those silos that you're operating in. DevOps. DevOps is cultural. I often talk about people, process, and technology being the three tenets of DevOps. And tonight will be no exception. We're talking quite heavily about culture and people and process, maybe a little bit less on the technology than sometimes we speak. I think, well, I'm not going to go into what I believe DevOps to be because we've all heard that one before, but you know, we're very, very heavily influenced by culture in the things that we do. So maybe DevOps means this. It's this big Mobius strip, infinity loop of tools. I know that a lot of people on the call will be very familiar with lots of these tools as well. So DevOps, kind of all of those things. London DevOps is now entering its 9th year in its current incarnation. We came back in 2014 when Mark picked up the group, and we're still going. We've survived 64 existing meetups without too many hitches, and so yeah, we're into our 9th year, 2022, and we're here to share knowledge, basically. So things that people have experienced, tools, process, culture, etc. Sagar will be doing a talk in a few minutes where he'll impart lots of knowledge. We're here to meet new people, obviously harder, given that we're virtual. But you know, please feel free to use the facilities of Zoom. I'm sure everyone's a Zoom expert now, to maybe talk to somebody you've not spoken to before. So yeah, we want to help each other out. That's a fundamental tenet of why we're doing London DevOps. It's not just so we can come up here and speak on a lectern and say, yes, how good we are. It's all about learning from people's experiences and helping each other out. So yeah, everything you hear is shareable, unless it's indicated otherwise. We're also recording. So if you're not paying attention during the call, or if you're not here, then maybe you're watching this later on YouTube. Talking of YouTube, there's our YouTube channel. If you type London DevOps into YouTube, you'll find that. So yeah, going back, pretty much every meetup we've had was recorded. Well, in fact, they've all been recorded. We just had a couple of technical disasters with the recordings on a couple of them. So you'll find most of the talks. There's obviously a huge amount of stuff going back nearly 9 years now, and much of it still is valid today as it was back when it was first recorded, going back to 2014, and going all the way up to the latest talks, which obviously were at the end of last year. So here's a code of conduct for the meetup. I'll just leave that on the screen for a few moments. If you're new here, then just I always say this, but I'll say it again. We still take the code of conduct seriously, even though we're on virtual, and we have had to enforce the code of conduct a couple of times. Thankfully not virtually, but yes, let's just say that the effects of some free beer on some people didn't have the desired effects sometimes. So yeah, code of conduct, serious. I'll just leave it there and shut up for a moment. And I mentioned beer, just to be clear, I'm not using that as an excuse. There's no excuse. So yes, please behave yourself. But with that out of the way, yes, please enjoy yourself as well. Listen to the talks. I hope you take a lot away from them. So here are our organisers. We're a little light on organisers tonight. Unfortunately, there's only two of us here, myself and Alex. But these are they. So we start with Mark. Mark's I've been implement DevOps everywhere. He works for HashiCorp. I think he's on a call with some partners of HashiCorp at the moment, so he can't be speaking. He can't be on the meetup tonight. Maybe he'll hop in later, unfortunately. Second, unfortunately, you're stuck with me, Matt Saunders. So I'm currently the head of DevOps at Adaptivist. Jack is also our third organizer. He's somewhere where he hasn't got very good connectivity, unfortunately, so he can't be here tonight. So he's the director of Weshape consultancy. We'll talk about them in a minute. And finally, Alex is here. So Alex is, if you want to just say hello, Alex.
Hi guys, here I am, founder of Prism Digital, DevOps and Cloud Talent Partner.
There you go. So those are your organisers. If you have any comments, good or bad, about the meetup, we especially want to hear the bad things, the things that you didn't like. Don't feel obliged to just say, yeah, it's really great. Yeah, everything's wonderful. If you've got constructive comments about what we can do, things we can do better, or if you want to host a meetup, given that we'll probably be able to go and have proper physical meetups quite soon. In fact, I think we probably could now. It just feels a little bit early right now. So if you could host this, if you want to sponsor or speak, if you have a story you want to tell, then please do get in touch with one of us. You can tweet us. Those are Twitter handles you see on that slide there. Or this, I'll share an email address at the end if you want to send an electronic mail. Talking of tweeting, we do like to get a bit of social activity going. So if you want to comment on something you hear in the presentations or the discussions, then please do tweet it out. #LondonDevOps. So on to the sponsors. We've already heard from Alex, but I'll let him say a few words about Prism Digital.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So yeah, we're a DevOps and Cloud Talent Partner. So we find homes for DevOps engineers and help clients find DevOps engineers as well. So yeah, small firm, boutique firm. We just focus in that space, based in London. And yeah, if we can help in any way on the hiring side, either side of the recruitment coin, I use the R word, feel free to get in touch.
Brilliant, thank you, Alex. So next on the sponsors is Adaptivist. So I work for Adaptivist. We are a consultancy and provider of services mainly around the Atlassian tools, so Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket. Yes, we've come to love and hate those tools almost as much as you do. We do a lot of work in those areas, a lot of work in digital transformation, DevOps, etc. And we're also partnered up with people like Sonatype and GitLab in trying to help our customers solve their problems. We're also sponsored by Weshape. So again, Weshape is a consultancy around DevOps and cloud transformation. I don't think there's anyone on the call from Weshape. I probably should have asked that question before making my terrible attempt at describing what Weshape do. That sounds about right. So yeah, cloud DevOps transformation. So yeah, Jack, one of our organisers, works for Weshape. He's one of the directors there. Chris Montecolombi, if you know him as well. So they're involved in Weshape. So that's them. And we're also sponsored by Taika. So Taika is a name that you may not have heard of, but they are a provider of API gateway software. Some really good stuff going on in the Taika world. So please do go look them up. And finally, OReilly, they send us some books and lots of freebies every now and again. And when we have physical meetups, we give them away. So thank you for that. Thank you to OReilly for those. So tonight we're going to do, we've got a talk and then we'll have a discussion session. Don't know how long the discussion session will last. We've got a nice, relatively small group here. So hopefully any of you who are listening to the talk that Sagar is going to do want to contribute, maybe save your questions, save your comments for either directly question Sagar at the end, or we can go into the discussion afterwards. I've got a few icebreakers that will hopefully provoke a bit of discussion there, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so first of all, we're going to talk about Morrisons. For those who are not in the UK, well, I won't steal Sagar's thunder, but very big supermarket. I love shopping at Morrisons. There's one just down there, just a mile away. Great supermarket, and he'll be talking about their technical transformation. And then after that, we'll go on to have a little discussion around the same. Need to change that slide out so it doesn't just have 4 white guys on it. Apologies. So, as I said, let us know what you think. You can do that either by contacting us on meetup.com, tweeting either hashtag London DevOps, which goes obviously publicly, or you can @ London DevOps if you want, and that just goes to us organisers, or you can send a good old-fashioned email to org@londondevops.co.uk. So that's it for the intro. So I shall now drop this share and hand over to Sagar. Did you want to try your share? And let's see if that works. Yeah, that looks good. So yeah, over to you, Sagar.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Just a brief history about Morrisons. As you know, Morrisons is the 4th largest retail chain in United Kingdom, and we have more than 500 stores across UK, with a turnover of around 17 billion GBP. And what I'm going to talk about today is our approach to product development, specifically in the digital domain. Those are mostly focused on our customers directly using our apps for the retail participation. So yeah, let's start with the agenda. So what I'm going to go through in the presentation. So the presentation will last around 18 to 20 minutes. And these are the highlights of the presentation. That I'm going to talk about what was the existing setup before I joined Morrisons 2 years back, how the digital team used to work, what were their challenges at that point in time. There is a lot of debate around estimation processes across different work streams. What's our take on it and what we achieved out of it, how we measure success of our product delivery team, and what is the importance of a continuous feedback or a demo, or how to engage your beta users. So if I go back a little bit on the history, when I joined, Morrisons traditionally had a development shop which heavily relied on external partners, and it is more of a pseudo agile, which is just patched on top of waterfall, the traditional waterfall model. So the emphasis is more on just following a Scrum methodology and giving a false sense of gratitude towards a high-level management that we are following Agile. And I am working in IT industry for more than 18 years. Since the Agile craze started probably around 10, 12 years back in a lot of large organizations, this has been the approach. It is more of a pseudo Agile, and there will be a lot of different methodologies that people use: Scrum, Kanban, Scumban. So that was the reality on the ground when I joined. Again, the focus is more on providing different types of reports rather than adding a value to our end customers. And again, the setup we had was, there is a lot of teams are geographically located. There are some teams working out of India, some teams working out of different locations within Europe, Eastern European countries. So the development team was not cohesive. It was like giving a job to a third-party vendor and just getting the final output from them. So there is no continuous feedback that used to happen. So what are the steps that we took to change this culture? As Matt clearly mentioned, DevOps is more about the culture more than the process or more than the tools that we use. So one of the ideas that we started with is recognize the talent within the organization, that what are the technology stack available and what skills currently people have within Morrisons, and how we can utilize them and give them empowerment. So I started leading a digital team with another colleague, and we thought that why not use our internal teams and what best we can deliver a value to our customers. Another thing we did, there is a concept called design thinking. So we started with a workshop with our development team and the business team, that how we solve the real world problem, how we approach a certain problem, how we define them. So we took a session for them, and that is like a continuous learning process. I've been delivering this session within Morrisons to different groups now, just imbibing a design technique and how we resolve that issues. And there is a good course from Harvard University also on design thinking. So my inputs are largely based upon that course that I took probably 5-6 years back when I was part of another organization called Infosys. Again, the focus was delivering a value one step at a time, so that it can be measured with the direct customer feedback. So we start with the approach of MVP and not going back to we have to deliver the entire product after 6 months or a year's time. So continuous delivery and getting a continuous feedback was a key to our principle that we tried to follow. So how our technology helped, what are the steps that we use to achieve our or target our principles that we started with. So our internal development team had a great web technology experience, and a lot of our customer facing apps were native apps using iOS and Android, which we heavily relied on external vendors to deliver those applications for us. So what we try to do is, our apps are morely a transactional base. There is no heavy reliance on performance or heavy reliance on lot of AR or new technology. So we started using our web technology skills, started exploring a new framework called Ionic, and using the Ionic framework, we use React and Ionic combination to have a single code base. So now our apps have a single code base that can deliver across your iOS, Android, and web. And what we use is one of the key feature is a Monorepo model. So we had a lot of discussions with Google, which is heavily focused on using a Monorepos. We use NX framework that enable us to develop a lot of modular approaches, and single Monorepo can now service multiple apps utilizing those modules. So there is a lot of reusability. The key principle that we use, again, taking a leaf from a DevOps book, is automate wherever you can and try to automate different steps. So as a team, we decided we don't want to rely heavily on unit testing, but more rely on integration testing, so that the actual feature can be tested rather than specifically a line of code. We do use a lot of tools just to make sure we have enough code coverages within our CI/CD pipeline, but our main testing focus is on the integration testing. We also have incorporated tools like Cypress for our web testing, so that all our features can be tested on the web application first. And then for a different comprehensive testing with the different types of devices, operating system, we use Browser Stack and APM for automation. From the CI/CD perspective, we have integrated two tools. We first use Bitbucket pipeline to basically build, test our backend. So we rely heavily on Firebase and the Cloud Functions, and we use Ionic Appflow to build our apps and deliver it to app stores. So in terms of processes, what we follow, so we believe simplicity is key to our success, what we are able to deliver in the last 2 years. So our business and dev team works together to prioritize requirements. And then we use very simple Kanban approach. We don't rely heavily on a different type of methodology which prescribes a lot of rituals. So we just pick up the high priority items and start working on it. And our reliance and ability to use a cross-functional and technical knowledge. So we focus on getting the work done. So work in progress item, as a team, we try to complete it before moving on to next set of requirements. So it also requires that your team is mature enough and skilled enough so they can pick up different technology aspects. So some people are expert in DevOps, some people are expert in web technology, some people are expert in backend technology. We tried them to give a exposure on a different sets of technology, so everyone can take part in it. And it is not a single responsibility of working in silos. It is more of a pair programming mode. And due to pandemic, this has got challenged a bit in last 1.5 years. So we do use a lot of tools to basically do a pair programming using LiveShare. So that helped us integrate some of the offshore team members as well. So some of the key focus we had was how we measure our success, whatever we are delivering. So we try to focus on what is our operational and financial metrics, like did we acquire new customers? Is our customer satisfaction survey getting improved? How is our customer feedback and how is our colleague feedback? That is the metrics we are trying to focus on, and we have a mechanism in place to gather this feedback. So that is our measure of success. We try to stay away from more of a serving reporting for a higher management, which is more towards a productivity matrices like velocity or defect injection ratio or your time to recover, these kind of metrics. We do focus on it as a part of technical implementation, but that is not our measuring success criteria as such. So as DevOps or Agile has 3 key principles from my perspective. So you need a very strong leadership support across the organization. So it is just your team, if they are working in an agile way, it is not going to help you. Your entire organization should be able to support you in achieving those goals. You need to continuously invest in training, technology skills and tools. So we rely heavily on it. I try to dedicate 4 hours every Friday for my team. We just get together and try to solve any of the relevant problems within the business, which is apart from our active projects. So it is more of a brainstorming, idea generation, or just developing a quick prototype. So we try to have that imbibed in our team. And we have to invest in getting a best talent to our organization and basically give them opportunity to add value to our organization. So with this process, what is the milestones in our journey for last 2 years? We delivered a doorstep delivery app, which was a big hit in pandemic. So it is a simple app where a lot of our customers who are just locked down due to pandemic can call a number, place their order, and then order gets delivered to their home. So there's no involvement of using an app, because a lot of Morrison customer are old age people. They are not technology savvy. So this was a big hit, and we are very proud to deliver this within 2 weeks time. And it really helped build the Morrison a great brand. And what we are trying to do now is build a catalog of apps using a Monorepo, as I discussed earlier, and a lot of reusable modules that can be shared across different apps that we are going to deliver in future for our customers. So that's it from my side, a quick presentation, and it is more of a transformation journey that I want to share with all of you. And I'm always open to feedback, sharing your experience and learning from you as well. So thank you very much, and I'm open to take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Sagar. Great presentation there. Okay, so yes, questions. So Pip has just asked one in the chat. He says, so we're investing in attracting the best talent. So Sagar, how do you balance that with retaining the talent you have and not letting them think that the new girl was getting more attention or money than they were?
Yeah, I think with the power we have, what we can do for our team is there will be always financial incentive for people to go away and look for different opportunities. And right now, the IT market is really hot. What I try to do within my team is give them opportunity to showcase their talent. Try to listen to them what they want to do. Sometimes they just want to work in different technology. Can I give that opportunity for them to showcase that talent? So I try to do a lot of POCs within my team, help other sections in my organization. So give them opportunity, get them to learn, share the knowledge. I think it is more about, can you develop a resource? And I don't mind if my very good resource going to some places and actually adding a value. But it is good that he added a value at certain organization. He's going good places in his career. So I'm happy with it.
Excellent, thank you. Hopefully, Pip, that answers the question. I think it's a good opportunity to segue into more of a discussion. So I'd like to encourage everyone, if you're comfortable with it, even if you're cooking dinner or doing whatever, to unmute, turn on your video if you're comfortable with it. Yay, there's a couple. Lovely. You don't all have to do that. But yes, let's we're kind of in that strange situation now where like the formal talk's over now in the meetup, and we're now starting to mill around a bit and having some more discussions. So good. So we've got a couple more questions have come in for you here, Sagar. So Gitesh asks, do you have any advice on how to balance the need for metrics that the management want to see versus the metrics that are needed by the DevOps teams?
Yeah, sure. So Gitesh, that's a very good question, and we had challenges basically getting management on our page. How a certain metrics is not going to help organization. If I just going to put my velocity in, I'm not really delivering a value to customer. It is just a byproduct of it. So we had a tough challenge in convincing the management, but I think there has to be a strong leadership within technology that can show the vision to the management, that see the customer feedback, what value I'm delivering, and if I'm delivering app every week and giving a new feature, that is a real measure of success, rather than my team velocity is certain story points, or my team can deliver a certain story points in a specific time.
Yeah, I'll go further than that and say perhaps idealistically, and suggest that perhaps those metrics should be the same, right? If the management want and the DevOps teams want, regardless of what you think about DevOps teams, maybe it's we're coming to a time now where the metrics that, for example, DORA, the DevOps research, what's the A stand for? I can't remember. Doesn't matter. That they come up with, which are very kind of business-driven metrics that you can measure teams on, that makes sense in a business context as well. So yeah, hopefully we'll see more of a convergence there between those two things. Yeah, so just to continue the discussion, anybody who wants to add opinions on this sort of stuff, please do come off mute, say what you think. If you one of the worst things that can happen at London DevOps is if everyone says, oh, how do you do this, and somebody says, yes, well, like this, and somebody else says, yes, that's the way, we did it that way, and somebody else says, yes, so did we, and oh, isn't that brilliant? What we really want is like some contrary opinions. So please do come off mute, come and say what you think, if you have a view on any of this sort of stuff. We promise we're all friendly, we don't bite.
Yeah, who's going to stir things up?
Maybe it'll have to be me.
We haven't got any of the usual culprits here, perhaps, that enjoy stirring things up, Matt.
We do, although I see that as an opportunity. So I think I'm seeing lots of new names here, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
I'd always like that we managed to attract back old people who have been on the meetup before, and get new voices. Because one of the worst things that can happen is like a load of people who already know each other because they've been on the meetup 17 times. Sorry, Pip. Before. Just say the same old things, and it's almost exclusionary to people who are new. So if you've never been on a meetup before, or never been on this meetup before either, please do come and communicate. So I'm almost slightly glad that some of the older folk aren't here. Sorry, some of the more long-standing folk aren't here.
Good point.
Okay. So yes, I just added some conflict there myself, didn't I? So Odie asks, Sagar, can you go into some more details about how the monorepos work? I guess lots of people are used to like microservices and small repos for everything, but I think it was famously Etsy clung on and still are doing very, very well with monorepos. So do you have a minute to talk a bit more about that, Sagar?
Yeah, sure. So what we utilize is something called an NX framework, which is primarily developed for Angular web apps, and we adopted it for our React web apps. Also, if you want to read a little bit more about, Google also uses a Monorepo framework called Bezel, which is a cross technology. So if you have a different technology stack with Java, Angular, and whatnot, Python, then probably Bezel is the way to go. But for our particular use case, since more of our web development and mobile application development using the same technology stack, we chose NX. So what we do exactly is break down our application into reusable components, and those reusable components are can be independently built, can be independently tested, including your UIs also. So for an example, take a login screen is an independent module. You can test it and then integrate with any apps using our login service. And during our testing phase, what happens is NX can detect what exactly getting impacted for a certain change. So if I change the login module, what are the different apps getting impacted, and only certain test cases getting impacted by those test cases can be run within our normal CI/CD pipeline. And as a part of regression testing, we use a scheduler at night. So it uses a lot of our business use cases and test it. So in the morning, our developer gets report anything failing, they will fix it. So it is always a forward fix.
Sounds good, and I guess that counters a lot of the arguments that people have against the monorepos, and shows that it is still a valid way of doing things, right?
Yeah,
and not only a valid way, but also a very productive way of doing things. Okay, good. So David asks, how did you get management to buy into such a big culture change, Sagar?
Yeah. So what we started doing is probably towing their line, or providing what they wanted initially in terms of reporting they wanted. So we tried to do that initially, but what clicked for us is how we were delivering value. So we showcased them, give us a chance for 3 weeks, and we can deliver, and let's see how our processes work. So we delivered them a results and shown the difference, how our development time, which is one of the, our engineering time is one of the costliest resource in the organization, a technical organization. How we want to focus is on actual development rather than people just getting and spending their time generating different types of report and just sending emails and all those things. So it is more about doing it and then showing the results. So it was a tough journey, but that's how we worked it out.
Lovely, excellent, great answer there. Cool. Okay, Joe, I just noticed you got your hand up. I don't know how long you've had your hand up for, so hopefully it's not too long. So did you want to come off mute and say something?
Yeah. Could you speak a bit more about the ops side of DevOps? Because we always get the dev bit in these places. We get very little on the ops, says coming from an ops side. How does your monorepos work with your ops deployment? And what sort of tools are you using on that operations side and the observability?
Yeah, so what we do in terms of delivery is We use a Bitbucket pipeline. Basically, it builds the code, use your integration testing to run, and then we integrate it with a tool called Ionic App Flow. So I'm talking specifically about delivering a mobile apps. So Ionic App Flow basically bundles your apps on Android and iOS side and just put your deployables onto specific app stores. So that is from the delivery part of it. In terms of monitoring and logging, we use a GCP logging framework and we send all the logs to our Datadog dashboards. So we build a customized Datadog dashboard in terms of monitoring what are the different resources that we use, how their performance is, and we define metrics on top of it.
Lovely, thank you, Sagar. Okay, so we talked about culture change, talked about Monorepos. So yeah, just a reminder to anybody else who wants to come off mute, please do put your hand up, or just come off mute and speak if you want to. Don't worry, don't worry about interrupting. It's not a problem. Please do come and contribute. So in the meantime, we've got another question from Akshay, who asks, as someone who wants to start his career in DevOps, what are the key things that someone should focus on to be successful, in your opinion, Sagar?
I think, in my opinion, DevOps is not specific as a role. DevOps is more of a community of practice. So everyone comes together, share ideas, and basically builds a culture within an organization. So that you only become a specific focused on DevOps technology, but more of a broad developer who can code, who can specifically serve as a SRE or a DevOps engineer, also have a view on testing. It gives a very broad spectrum for you to build a great career ahead.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that. I think it's so tempting to go down the technology route if you want to get started in DevOps. Because I think it's a more of a tangible thing, isn't it? It's like, well, yeah, it's largely technical people who want to go into a DevOps role from an SRE or an operational background. And yeah, people like me come along and wave their hands about and say, no, it's more about culture. It can be, yeah, it can be a harder thing to grasp hold of. Okay, cool. So I've got a few more questions here just to kind of provoke a bit of discussion. So yeah, please do come off mute, please do contribute and say what you think about these things. Not just you, Sagar, of course, even though it's brilliant having you here and answering the questions. I did notice that we talked about Kanban boards. A lot of the companies that I've worked with, we kind of found Kanban doesn't seem to be enough because generally because people aren't really satisfied with, well, we'll get around to it once it becomes the highest priority thing to do. So I've always seen a lot of pressure to put in ceremonies, Scrum-like things like sprints to deal with that. So I was a little surprised when you highlighted Kanban as being quite a successful thing to do. Do you have any more thoughts on that, Sagar?
Yeah, so we did. Morrisons traditionally use Scrum methodology as such. So we looked at it, how they are working. So, and it is not a silver bullet. Probably some of the teams are very mature to follow Scrum methodologies and they are great productive teams. So we looked at our team, what works for them. So they were not very mature in terms of Scrum methodologies, what are the rituals. So we wanted to do a very simple thing, give us the priority, start working on it, finish it off, deliver a value. That's what we started doing it. And it worked great for our team. And even if you want a reference, Microsoft Xbox team, they rely heavily on Kanban. And it is very simplistic Kanban approach they use, no estimation. It is more about delivering a value. So if you follow a person called Alan Holyoke on LinkedIn, he's a great advocate of actually using Agile manifesto rather than prescribing a lot of methodologies. So I'm a great fan of him.
Now, I found him quite recently, actually. That's Alan Holub, Holub.
Yeah.
Yeah, some refreshing amounts of sense coming out. And yeah, I find that gets you a long way. So good. Yeah, any other thoughts on Kanban versus Scrum from the floor? Anyone want to talk about that at all? Somebody else off mute.
Yeah, I can talk a bit about our experiences. We've been doing Scrum of a sort, so we don't call it Scrum. It's our own version of Scrum. And what I would say is, whatever version of Scrum you're doing, the one important ritual is the retrospective, where you change it to work. If you do nothing else, and that's what we've learned, is that ability to change what we do to make it work actually makes it work. For a long time, we didn't really get that, and we were doing these things and rituals and having issues. But now that we've started to actually say, well, actually, we are going to change what we do, how we do it, we have a certain amount of freedom to do that, it's actually become useful.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I will just add it. We do use stand-up meetings, we do use retrospective within our Kanban approach. And what we initially learned is, what we're doing is, in the retrospective, we just talked about what are the things work well, what are the things for improvement, but we never assigned a specific action item to change that, what is going wrong. And when we started doing it, we started seeing those results, that we have an action item and person responsible who can take action on it, or a team who can take action on it. So it was a great change and a learning process for us as well.
Marvelous. I think I like hearing about things like this, where people aren't just blindly adopting the things that people say you should do. Use these things as a starting point, right? So start with Scrum, try it. Joe, that was seminal, what you say about the retro, and looking not only at how well things went within the 2 weeks, and I find myself in this trap quite a lot, where we're doing a retro and you're talking purely about the things that happened within the last 2 weeks, without broadening your view of, like, well, how are we actually working? Doing some of this systems thinking that Gene Kim's always on about. Does the system actually work for us? Does the process work? And so, yeah, it's really heartening, not more just like, oh yeah, we adopted the Spotify model, oh yeah, we tried safe, it didn't work for us, just created loads of meetings, and people managed to find the best of, I don't know, I hesitate to use the phrase best of both worlds between the two, but it's something like that, and that's amazing.
Yeah, so one of the, just to add another point, I think one of the things we started doing recently, 6 months back, is during our retrospective, we do make a point to appreciate a person or group of people who contributed within those particular 2 weeks to our project. And we try to show a goodwill gesture. Normally I buy a coffee whenever I'm in office, or buy lunch for that person. So because we always try to focus on what we can improve rather than enjoying the success what we have achieved as a team. So that is very important. Do recognize the great talent within your company and enjoy your success as well. Take a breather.
That's great. I think that ties into one of the questions that who was it asked earlier, that Pip asked earlier, around motivating people who are the old guard, people who've been there for a long time, and I think it comes out in the Unicorn project, like in Gene Kim's 5 ideals, where if you're, I can't remember exactly which ideal it was or what the words are behind it, but it's effectively saying that if you are running in an environment where people can continually improve, and the culture supports you doing that and changing that, then that's a very positive thing. And it means that when new people come in, and when the new girl comes in with all the new ideas from another business, the old guard aren't stymied by it, and everyone's progressing, and having a good time. Flow, focus, and joy, I think Mr. Kim calls it. All right. Okay. So I've just been chatting with David, who I work with. He's trying to phase a question about security and CISO. So I'll give this a try. Andrew, yes, that's the one. So yeah, so we obviously made some changes, a new way of working, Kanban, Monorepos. Would you say you're doing DevSecOps, Sagar? Are you doing security scanning and testing as part of your CI/CD? Any thoughts on
Yes,
that?
so we do use tool called Sneak, which we integrated in our Bitbucket pipeline. So far we have been a very good experience because it can give you a lot of vulnerabilities. It can also give you a PR which already fixes those vulnerabilities. You review them and just submit it. So from the dev perspective, the experience using Sneak is very good.
Awesome, cool. David, does that kind of cover the sort of stuff you were thinking of there?
Yeah, but also, how do you integrate the requirements, the ongoing requirements of having CISO and security people who don't necessarily fit into your direct groups as part of your projects and your as they're adding tasks to you for their specific requirements? How does that? How do you manage them from an outside of your team? Sorry, that's poorly phrased.
So that's a really good question. And currently our CISO requirement still sits outside our team. So what happens during our initial architecture review, there is a representation from our security operations. They feed into our non-functional requirement as well, specific to our organizational structure. And we also go through a penetration testing. So there is an in-house penetration testing team. We try to go through every beta release. And there is an external penetration testing that we go through, but still it is not well integrated, I would say. Still sits outside of our team, and it is more of a waterfall approach. At a certain release, we go through a validation, remediate whatever is found within those validations, and then start working on the next set of requirements.
Sounds good. Sorry, I was interrupted by a 9-year-old who has some sort of problem with the freezer, which I'm slightly dreading going into the kitchen in a few minutes' time.
Half term, eh?
Gotta love half term. Yeah. All right, so that's good. Does anybody else have any more questions or anything we want to dive into and discuss at the moment?
Yeah, I think I would like to know from all the participants, what's your take on estimation? Because we had a lot of debates within our team, right? Whether doing estimation is worth it or it just finger in the air most of the time, where the requirements are not well defined at the initial stages.
So we've tried strict time estimations. We did try story points at some point. None of it really works as far as I can see. So we still try to put time estimations. The main reason that we use time estimations is not to estimate when something gets done, but not to overload the people doing it. Because what we find is a lot of people will set many tasks that they will agree to do in our sprint periods, and they never complete it. They always overestimate. So we look at time estimation as a way of saying that's too much. You need to get rid of something. So we do get a time estimation. We work out how much time the team has in a week, and then how much time they say they're going to do those tasks. But it's more about priority. Priority matters more, because if we can prioritize what the organization wants at that point in time, then they're less worried about how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ceremony here that has the best of intentions, but ultimately ends up just being a drag on you. We do t-shirt sizing as estimates, and yeah, if if the organization isn't sufficiently well aligned that everyone understands what those sizes mean, or the implication of putting an Excel in as a high priority, then you're going to get conflict. I see it frequently. I'm not just talking about current job, but in the past as well, where you see conflict between project managers and techies who want to do the right thing. They don't want to annoy people by saying, well, no, we can't do that for X number of weeks. And they also don't want to say X number of weeks, because you say X weeks and then X weeks later, project manager's like, where is it?
Yeah.
And everything's changed again, right? But the alternative is like, well, no, we're not going to do any estimation. Again, I got a lot of time for that. But I don't think it's an acceptable thing to say to the rest of the business. I would say that the closest you can get is by making sure that top priority stuff is worked on first. Making sure that, work in progress, you're limiting that. You can only do one thing at a time, and making sure that's understood, and being really visible about what you do next. Sorry, Sagar, I'll pause. You're trying to say something.
No, I'm just agreeing with your point, what you're making, because not doing estimation is more of a ideal way for developers, but it's very hard sell for a business, because they always want some date. They can put a product in front of customers. So there is always going to be a battle. But what we try to do is give us the priority. This feature we worked on priority, it is ready. Now go ahead and launch it based on any operational task that you have to follow.
Great comment from Pip here. Yeah, work expands to fill the time available. I find myself doing things like estimating something's going to take a day, getting it done in an hour, and I'm like, yeah, right, I shall sit back here with my drink and and not do any more. It's
You'd never do that, Matt.
Deadlines come in handy, as long as death isn't the consequence. So we're talking of death. I'm guessing that Sagar, that you're a great Douglas Adams quote there, David. That's the doorstep delivery app that you're talking about, and COVID coming along, all of a sudden had a really interesting effect on delivery teams, where, especially in supermarkets, where I guess there's just a massive increase in demand for deliveries when COVID started. And just, I guess, enormous pressure to get this top priority stuff done. I mean, is that how it felt for you guys at the time, you guys and girls?
Yeah, I think the challenge was Morrison as a business, they really want to support the community. We didn't have enough resources at that time. And what we can do for specific customers who are not technology savvy, but they still want food to be delivered, how we can help them. I think that's where the idea came for doorstep deliveries. And we had to pull our socks together and deliver this app. It is more developed for colleagues, where you can just, as a customer, you can just calling a number, put your order, and it gets delivered through your nearest store. So that was pretty exciting time. And I also worked as a person on the call center to take those orders for a couple of weeks as well. That was also a different experience. Never did that. It was challenging, but
the ultimate customer focus, isn't it? I think a lot of us get trapped into our little bubbles where we're delivering some IT stuff, and we forget. There's somebody at the end of the line there. There's somebody who needs groceries, somebody who needs medication, or etc. And you can hear about it, you can tell stories about it, but until you actually really speak to these people, you don't really know. That's why I think it's a fundamental DevOps thing, knowing your customer, understanding them, and speaking to them. I know a lot of techies who are scared, but actually, the clarity you get through doing that sort of thing, I think is immense. I once did some contract work for one of your rival supermarkets. Won't mention the name, and one of the things that they said was, all the staff go into the stores they work in the stores for a while to get some experience. And yeah, it sounds like a nice thing to do. Have a day out down in stacking some shelves, etc. But we should do more of that stuff in IT. We hide behind service desks. Like, oh, I've got a ticket here from somebody who wants something. Yeah, let's find out what they want. Oh, let's do it for them. And you read the ticket, and there's more questions than answers in the ticket. Go off and you type some stuff in, say, I've done this, but pick up the damn phone, speak to them. Really, really valuable, right?
I don't think that's necessarily a tech thing versus non-tech thing. I mean, because we're working within the talent space and speaking to people all day long. Am I going to make myself sound old here? But like, I'm finding the younger generation are just more reluctant to pick up the phone and talk to people anyway. Whether that's tech or non-tech, I don't know if this is a cultural thing now. But just pick up the phone, just get this done, rather than going through like WhatsApps or emails or what have you. Maybe it's a wider topic, that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more of what you said, because I think Steve Jobs famously said, right, if you need something, just pick up the phone and ask.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's generational. I mean, I do it. My phone rings. Here it is. It rings. I'm like, why is it making a noise? That's not these people text me. So anecdotally aside, I say pick up the phone. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that. It's about communicating, isn't it? And I think famously us geeks, I still like to call myself a geek. Look, Back to the Future t-shirt, right? So I'm still a geek, okay? Would have been like in the IT crowd, stuck in the basement, not wanting to talk to people because people will give them work to do, which they don't want to do. And it's so easy to lose like the nuance of why people are asking for things, especially when we push them into like doing things in a uniform way. And here's a ticket, fill in these 7 fields on your service desk, and off you go, and we'll do your request as if you were a robot. And yeah, you lose the nuance, you lose that communication, you lose, to bring it back onto topic around DevOps, you use that opportunity for feedback, the feedback loops, and rapid iteration, rapid flow. So yeah, whether it's, I'll ignore the phone ring, you pick up the voicemail and then text someone later, still communicating. Yes, we do tend to do things more asynchronously now. Maybe it's just well, I don't know what it is, if it's a generational thing or whatever. But yeah, the key thing for me there is to actually communicate. Everyone's got some nuance around what they want, be it like a product specification or a ticket for my laptop's not working or anything like that. Right?
Yeah.
All right.
I often find that
go on.
Sorry. I often find that a lot of the tickets and requests like that come in that you don't always get, but quite often the user or the person who's put it doesn't know quite what they've asked for, or they've asked for something different to the thing they actually want. And having a conversation, Zoom call, or phone call, or to tease out of them the exact bit that they want, that they maybe don't even know is an option, or the thing that they've asked for isn't what they had in their head, as how it reads to you. And that's quite valuable. You'll quite often find that that's the case, that you find out that the requirement is something quite different from what is written.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, Matt, if you want to pick up.
Sorry, I'll just add on to David's point, where we're always being encouraged, and not least of which from ourselves. If you're doing something more than once, then automate it. And I feel like in human interactions, maybe the problem with the laptop isn't a good example. Maybe that's like always the same answer, and we can actually automate that stuff. But all too often we manage to funnel things into a process, be it like a t-shirt sizing exercise, or working out what to do with a broken laptop, But mostly to bring it on topic, about sizing, estimates, etc. Make this requirement fit into the constraints that we've put on it, because we put those constraints on in order to make our lives easier. Except our lives aren't easier, and we don't know what we're doing, and we're probably not going to do the thing that you wanted because we've tried to optimize this too much, and trading that off against the need to get as much through the system as you possibly can, in terms of like work that needs doing, whether that's coding or fixing laptops or whatever it is. I think that's like a very fine balancing act for a modern organization. Sorry, Sagar, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I think I was just adding to the point is in terms of, so a lot of times what I experience is business try to put a requirement as how to do the things rather than what they really want. And we faced initially a lot of challenges. It is as simple as someone will write a requirement like, when I click this button, I should see this. So a lot of them is a prescriptive requirement, and we try to stay away from those and ask a specific questions to businesses, what you want, what needs to happen rather than how it needs to happen. And there are specialized people in human interface design, there are UX people who can actually show us a lot of very nice ways of achieving those things. And we started doing that, then they realized there is a different way of doing these things, a very human centric. So that is again a challenge in a lot of organizations previously I worked as well with the business, how they put the requirement.
It's the difference between measuring I don't know, code written and outcomes.
Yeah.
Describe the outcome that you want. And yeah, transitioning an organization to be modern like that is a challenge. All right, Brian's come up with a question, which is, and again, I open this to everyone who wants to pitch in with some opinions on this. What would be your top recommendations for promoting DevOps as a culture into an organization? I could talk for hours on this, so I'm going to go on mute just for a minute.
Yeah, I think one of the top recommendation which work for us is build a DevOps community, get people who are interested in this way of working together, start doing kind of internal meetups and start talking about it. What are the different avenues we have, what we can do? Let's do one project, start doing all those things and see what are the results. I think just build a community.
Yeah, that's a good one. I find one of the things I believe for a long time, not my thinking, somebody else's, is that if you want to start actually infiltrating the organization with DevOps, as opposed to having it imposed from on the top, which similarly doesn't necessarily work, is yeah, finding that group of early adopters, the people who want to work in a different way, the people who see that if you're continually improving things, then you're going to deliver better stuff, you're going to have a better way of working, and a more progressive culture. Get them together, get them to do something, something that's big enough for people to take notice, but small enough to get past all the bureaucracy that maybe doesn't want this to happen, and go from there, right?
Just free food normally helps, right? So like some kind of like lunches, dinners, somewhere off site. That's something that involves feeding people. Is that ridiculous, or I've heard success around that?
No, I think feeding people makes people relax. You get more social as you are out of a prescriptive work environment, sat around an office meeting room.
It's absolutely a thing. David, you're breaking up a little bit, but yeah, I think David was basically agreeing. It's absolutely a thing. Goes back to a wonderful lady called Linda Rising, who is an Agile, I say Agile coach, she's so much more than that. Did a brilliant talk at the Pipeline Conference, the one organised by Matthew Skelton and et al. About 5 or 6 years ago. And this was one of her main points. Bring food. a lot of the reasons why organizations don't necessarily adapt to new ways of working is because, well, we've just always done things that way because we're too busy doing the thing to figure out if we should still be doing the thing. I'm terribly paraphrasing this talk that Linda gave probably about 8 years ago now. So please don't write in with complaints. And yeah, you bring food and it triggers things in the way that you're thinking about solving problems, so that you're not just solving the problem, you're solving how you solve the problem as well, if I'm not making the words too complicated there. So absolutely, bring food. Pip, less work. Pip says less work, by which I think you mean less kind of routine, less doing things by rote, and more time to actually think about doing the real work, right? Pip, did you want to clarify that? Can't hear you, Pip, and you're very yellow. Is it just me can't hear Pip?
No, I can't hear Pip. Hello, Pip. We can't hear you.
Might be something to do with the nuclear reaction going on in your house. Don't know. I don't know. Yeah, we can't hear you. Did you want to just type, perhaps? Please don't shoot the cat. Yeah, let's see what he comes up with there. But yeah, seminal piece of work. But, I think one of the big things here is having a culture. If we look back at Brian's question, you can try and promote a culture, but ultimately someone needs to go out on a limb slightly and start infusing that culture with things like the permission to challenge the way that things are done, come up with better ways, form teams that cross silo boundaries, etc., etc. And it's frustrating sometimes when you want to influence these people, these things, but the culture doesn't allow you. Maybe it's something that is endemic in the organization that doesn't promote that way of working. Pip, thank you. Sorry to make you type all that, but we couldn't hear you. Less laboring, less pushing the same button the same day, yeah, because we've always done it. More playing with toys, yeah, totally. Playing with toys with a guide so that pushes the output to being a business benefit. Yeah. Progressive people or DevOps people can get you can get a bad name when you come along with a new tool or a new way of thinking based off some conference video that you've seen or a TED talk, but being able to channel that sort of thing into not just, oh, it's another thing you think to play with, but look at how new tools, new techniques can help you actually affect business outcomes. It's huge, absolutely huge. One of my friends swears that he gets more by taking a box of biscuits in. Yeah. When somebody takes a box of biscuits in, I get more fat, yes. But no, this is true, an absolute truism. All right, does anybody want to go into anything else? We had a good spirited chat, so I'm pleased with that. Something I should have pointed out was that Sagar is actually in India at the moment, so 5.5 hours ahead of us. So it's actually after midnight for Sagar now, and this is his dedication to come and talk to you, come and talk to us tonight. So I always say this. I always say thank you to our panelists, not only because it would be rude not to, but because I'm genuinely thankful. But yes, thank you. Extra special thanks to Sagar for staying up after midnight to give us our talk. So I don't know if you want to come off mute. It doesn't really work too well on Zoom, but you kind of get the idea to come off mute and say thank you to Sagar. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Sagar. Right. Thank you very much.
So yeah, we are about done. So yeah, brilliant contributions from others. Thank you, especially Joe, David, and also to Gitesh, Brian, Pip, anyone I've forgotten, sorry, who's asked questions and contributed. Another good meetup. Lots of food for thought. Lots of common consensus going on there. So that's awesome. So we're going to wrap it here, I think. had a good chat. So yeah, lots of thanks in the chat. That's brilliant. London DevOps will return in about a month. We do have another talk lined up. We're probably not going to be. We're probably not going to be virtual, are we, Alex?
Hopefully not. No, I'd love the next one to be on-prem.
On-prem, yeah. So I think the current plan, and yeah, on-prem, not get your Terraform ready. I think the plan, and please don't hold me to this, the plan is currently for that to be over near Monument in the Weshape's office in about a month's time. We do have a talk lined up from someone at Marsh McLennan as well. So that's probably what we're going to be doing. So yeah, keep your eyes out for the announcement going out for that. All that remains for me to do now is to thank everyone for the contributions. Thank you as always to David for brilliant help behind the scenes as well. I don't say thank you enough for that. So brilliant. Thanks to Alex for coming along as well. And on behalf of all the other organisers, thank you to you for all coming. And most of all, yeah, thank you to Sagar. You can go to bed now. That's fine.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for your talk.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See you next
See you.
time.
Bye.
Goodbye.